Okay, welcome everybody to the March 5th, 2019 Millbrae School Board meeting. We're going to start off our meeting with the flag salute. Trustee Barbaro, can you lead us in the flag salute?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, this meeting is being televised and recorded for the transcription of the minutes. This meeting will be replayed on MCTV Channel 27 on Saturday, March 9th at 11:30 a.m. and the following Monday, March 11th, 2019 at 3:30 p.m. At this time, speakers wishing to address the board this evening should turn in the completed speaker cards to the board secretary. Report of action taken in closed session. IDA number 192002 was unanimously denied. And item 4.2, the board unanimously voted to non-reelect a .5 band teacher. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight?
Move to approve the agenda.
Okay. Motion by Trustee Fema and second by Trustee Musa. Okay, committee reports. Budget Advisory Committee, Tax Oversight, Richard Champion.
Trustees, last week we had our first parcel tax / budget advisory committee of this school year. And it was the first opportunity to introduce our community to Measure End as part of the component of our overall budget. And that's how we presented it and rolled it out. And we have 7 community members on the panel and 6 staff and district administrators and, of course, 2 trustees that are on that panel. And we review the roles of the Budget Committee and the Parcel Oversight Tax Committee and reporting out on the district's use of funds. We also looked at the first interim and the governor's budget adoption initial proposal for next year. Our next meeting is slated for April 18th at the district office, 5:30 start time. It's an open meeting. Everyone's invited to come. And we'll be reviewing the second interim data and moving forward and start planning our report out measures for Measure N. That's all my report for tonight.
Great, thank you. Okay, 6.2, Millbrae City Council and School District Joint Subcommittees. Vaughn Papersert,
Absolutely.
and Dennis Fema, and Lynn Ferrario.
Trustees, these were the following topics, and certainly President Ferrario, Trustee Fema chime in as you were part of the committee as well. The items that we discussed, number 1, city offering an all-day preschool program. Number 2, affordable/staff housing. Number 3, International Day with the city and district partnership. And lastly, number 4, Park and Recreation, Boys and Girls Club and district partnership. If I can ask Trustee Fema begin with the item number 2, the affordable staff housing that we discussed.
Sure, thanks. Let me say, first of all, I'm really happy to see this subcommittee in place. We've been meeting jointly for several years, off and on with the city. And in some ways, it's become kind of a too large of an operation with an agenda which included things that really didn't affect both either one of us or jointly. This committee, as constituted, is going to have 2 board members, 2 city council members, and staff to look at specific issues that relate to both the schools and the city, and particularly things of which they have in common. I was very pleased with the agenda because it's tight, it's to the point. And I'm hoping in the future that we can keep minutes, even if they're just recorded minutes, because one of the issues we've had in the past is that, we meet, we go away, and we come back later, and we can't quite always remember what it was we decided. So this committee really gives us, I think, a good working group, and I appreciate everybody's time. One of the issues that came up, a hot topic for everybody these days, is affordable housing, and talking particularly about our staff, and beyond looking at when and where housing might occur, which is a bigger issue. One of the things that came up from Anna Leva, who is in real estate, was a program that she knows about regarding teaching first-time home buyers or even people looking for changing their address to Millbrae. How can they afford it? The question comes up, I can't even meet the minimum requirements for loans. And there's a program called HEART, and I'm going to pass this out now to my colleagues, and we'll include those in the minutes as well. This is a program where professionals can perhaps hold a seminar. We could do I'm thinking a Saturday morning at someplace on district property. Anna Leva has indicated that while she would not do this program because it'd be a conflict of interest for her, she can arrange to have such a program occur for us, and at no charge. And that the city of Millbrae would partner with us in making this presentation. So the idea is to bring together folks that are interested in first-time buying or looking for opportunities to live in Millbrae, and I think particularly of our staff, and give them some advice on how to proceed without any obligation or any cost to anybody. And I just thought it was a nice offer to come from our joint session. So I leave this with staff to evaluate. The other nice thing about the joint meeting is now we can give clear direction to staff as to what we should be following up on. So I really appreciate what people have done, and that's my report on the housing.
Thank you. There were a couple of other items that came up. I don't know whether you wanted to address those now or
Certainly. The item that Trustee Barbaro had requested was the city offering of an all-day preschool program. We wanted to follow up on what has been proposed. We did receive in our language, request for proposal, but it's a different language referring to the all-day if
Right.
CBO
Trustees Barbara and Fabo, if you recall, when we were on the committee with the initial design committee that we see here on the wall, one of their thoughts were revenue generation within this new rec center, and an idea came up of some type of a day care center or some type of an event that would generate money from facility use for the city. Not that they would run an all-day preschool in this case, but they would rent. They put an RFQ out, request for qualifications for entities that would be interested in running a program inside the rec center, and that's what we received that too. But as of right now, there is no rec center yet, so I think that we were just trying to put their plan together, the business planner going forward. So that's the only information that I have on that.
They kind of spun it a little bit different. They kind of spun it as if they were getting funding. They even mentioned like something like $650,000.
Your mic?
They spun it a little bit like they were getting about $650,000 in a grant, or they were going for a grant, and they were actually going to run it. Never mentioned any partnerships with the school district or anything like that. I mean, I was really taken back by the comments that were made. And so that's why I asked to get a little more information on it.
And that was an item that was discussed during our subcommittee. The hope is that they're partnering, and so part of the process for them is to go out to entities that already have established preschool programs, the Learning Links, the Millbrae School District, any establishment that already has their jurisdiction of a preschool program. And so that's what was shared with us, in that they put out that request for proposal to see if any entity would like to partner with the city of Millbrae. Number 3 is the International Day. Just wanted to provide the trustees an update. This is Mayor Lee's initiative in terms of looking at celebrating the different nationalities, looking at celebrating the different cultures that the city of Millbrae has. We will be partnering with Tom Williams, the city manager, and McKinsey from Park and Recs to just look at how the city can work collaboratively with the school district to promote this item. The mayor had slated, his thought was to have something by the end of the school year. We had to revisit that date because the end of the school year is right around the corner. And so we do plan to work with both Mr. Tom Williams and McKinsey. Our thought is to form another subcommittee that takes a look at what the vision is for an International Day. What the school district is familiar with is that the individual school sites, not all, but the individual school sites have their own International Day or Heritage Day or some type of small or large festival that celebrates the different cultures. And so we did share that we will have conversations with their PTA and PTO board just to see if that could be a starting point to involve the school community. What we understand and what I understand is that the mayor's office wants it a little bigger in terms of citywide as opposed to just school-specific or district. And so it looks like it's going to be a big project.
Art and Wine Festival, for what they were talking about in terms of closing streets and everything. Mm-hmm. I think one other point that was made is that this would not interfere with fundraising efforts from our local PTA, PTOs, that, you know, they would still have their functions, but the whole international piece would take on a different look.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
done in other cities. It's been done in my hometown that I grew up in, and it would usually be run by the churches in my town, and they would pick like a large area, and each
school, well, there were schools at the time, schools with inside churches, they would have their own country. And so that country it would be with Germany, Italy, Spain, you name it, all in this big, gigantic parking lot. Everybody invited. And so each booth would make money for that particular school inside that church. So it's been done. I've seen it done.
Great.
Thank you. And the last item, CBO champion, if you can take.
I wasn't there. Well, the park and rec district and other entities. We've had this conversation many times that there's more strength in numbers, and economies of scale and stuff like that. So I think one of the conversations was coordinating shared facility use / programs going forward, which we're open to, always have been for the last number of years now, since all our facilities are online and our facility rental reservation system is online. And it'll be part of a bigger conversation as we look in future board meetings of our overall facilities master plan and our process of relooking at our fee schedule and such. So, yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to mention is that the bike rodeo will be happening on May 11th. It'll be at the Shea Center. And so that is something we can look forward to. That was on the agenda. At Marshall Realty, when Miss Oliva was speaking about the program that Dennis just mentioned, the Heart, they also were having a speaker last Friday. That was, his last name is Bacon. He's a confidence coach, and I really wanted to go and see or hear the speaker. She's going to give me the business card because I think it might be something that we might want to bring to a meeting. This fellow is supposed to be very dynamic. We can all use some confidence, and with our SEL program, this might be some avenue that we could tap on just to a kind of a look-see. He is on YouTube. His last name is Bacon, so you can take a look. Anything else? Okay, great. Thank you.
I just want to quickly thank our wonderful people here for participating, and Vaughn for taking the lead on this, because this is something we've talked about for a while, and I think we're really headed in the right direction.
Okay, so now we are going to communications to the board. We already read this statement about speakers wishing to address the board. So we're going to look to see if MEA is represented here. And seeing no one, CSEA, seeing no one, MEF, no one, members of the community, I don't see any blue slips. So now we'll move right on to trustee communication. How about Trustee Musa? Would you like to start us off?
Sure. Just a couple of things. On February 21st, I just want to say Taylor Music had their yearly tour, and they went and visited the 4 elementary schools. I wasn't a chaperone, but since Anthony forgot his music, so I had to go drop in. So I was able to go to Green Hills and check it out, and the kids sounded really, really good. So they seem like every time I hear them play, they're getting better and better. So thank you, Dr. Gonzalez, for doing such a great job. Also, me and Lynn and Dennis had the pleasure of being part of the Lunar New Year Parade. Even if it was raining, but we managed to get a car. And I actually felt like we were celebrities. We perfected our ways and, enjoyed the moment.
Maggie, I really thought they'd have magnetic pictures of us for the side of the car.
Yes, I was hoping for that, because all the other cars had their names on the outside except for us. So
we
next
just had
year,
our hands hanging out.
Wayne Lee, if you're listening, thank you for inviting us, first of all, Wayne, and thank you for arranging the car for us. But next time, Tuttle.
I think where we were placed strategically, we were behind the roller derby skaters, and we were in front of the Mills.
Marching. No, the Cappuccino's marching band.
No, they were in front, but had Mills. What were they doing? A Mills
the
group.
dragon.
The dragon. Yeah. So anyway, we were in a good spot with the roller derby.
Even if it was raining, but I think it was a good turnout. So, and then we got to meet. We saw Jackie Spear there, and we saw Kevin Mullen, and who else? Can't remember. Anyway, huh? Dave Pine was there. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, so that was fun. And actually, the most important thing, I just want to say happy birthday, 18th, my son's 18th birthday today, turning 18, Alexander. Yes. Yeah, so happy birthday. I left him at home making his own pizza for his birthday. So, that's it. Thank you. Huh?
Hey, Trustee Ravello.
Thank you. Well, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't speak at least briefly about the MEF Gala that we were all in attendance at this past weekend. And boy, what an event. You know, I was just awestruck at how well done that event was on so many levels. And certainly I was very, very impressed by the level of community participation in terms of getting into the period. You always worry when you have a period celebration, how many people are going to go, do the extra step of costumes and doing the research. And boy, I was flabbergasted how many people were seriously into the 1920s period. And of course, the MEF themselves did a wonderful job of hosting that event. It was very, very nicely done. They certainly took the first year's efforts and took it up another notch. So I'm hopeful that they generated at least as much money as they did the prior year, hopefully more. I'm certain they did, manage to attain a high level of funding from that night, because it was very well participated by the audience as a whole. So congratulations to them. Also, earlier in that same week, CBO Champion was mentioning the Budget and Measure In Committee. And so Trustee Barbara and I were in attendance in that. And I want to compliment CBO Champion for the very fine presentation he did. I was involved in another budget committee quite some time ago for the district, and it was night and day in terms of, the professionalism and level of expertise that was brought to the presentation. And I was certainly very impressed by the community members that were in attendance. It was a very nice cross-section of the community, but I also thought it was very interesting, how informational that session seemed to be. And these are people that are highly involved in our community. They understand money, and yet, and these are people that have been around the schools for literally decades, some of them, and yet they went away having learned something about, the funding of our schools and why Measure In was important and why their continued participation in the process is important. So all in all, a very, very important meeting, and I thought it was very well done. Congratulations, Mr. Champion.
Thank you.
Trustee Barbaro.
Sure. Yeah, just to make a point, Trustee Ravello, I couldn't be more in agreement. We do have a really good, solid committee for both committees, and very informational. And Don, I think I was on one of those committees with you in the past, and wow, what a difference. It really is. And, we were sitting in a room full of very intelligent people who were asking some very good questions. And Mr. Champion was great with all the information, always very understanding. very, very level with what we could grasp. So I'm right there with you, Trustee Ravello. Speaking on the gala last week, I was too really, really astonished and blown away. I couldn't believe my takeaway at the end of the night was watching all the people that work so hard in our school district having such a wonderful time. I never saw so many people have so much fun. I mean, everybody was just at such a high level, and that was a real community builder for our community, and I think that's going to move us forward. Last Thursday, I had the opportunity to come into a board meeting for the Peninsula Healthcare District. And Dennis Fama's wife, Sherry, asked me to come in and speak and share my experience from November of 2017, which I did. And it gave me the opportunity on behalf of our Millbrae School District to thank them for the 15 defibrillators that they donated to our schools and had them installed. And so that was a really cherished opportunity for me. I think they appreciated hearing that. And former Mayor Paul Cito come walking into the room before the meeting started, and I said to him, why are you here? And he said, well, I'm on the finance committee for this board. And I said to him, well, I was going to tell your story tonight about what you just told us at the Lunar New Year dinner, but you're here now. You mind if I call you to come up? And so at the end of my little talk to their board, I asked Paul to come up, and Paul shared his experience, which was after CPR Saturday, 2 weeks later, at a gymnasium on the peninsula for a 15 and older basketball evening, somebody went into a cardiac arrest. And Paul immediately knew what to do because of CPR Saturday. He went to his phone. He turned that phone on right away. He dialed 911. He got that person that was on the floor, and he flipped him over, and he started chest compression while he called for a defibrillator. Now then Paul says that the defibrillator was placed inside that particular facility 2 weeks before only. And so a doctor was there. A doctor got the defibrillator, brought it, assisted Paul, and Paul and the doctor got this person sort of conscious again, where he was actually speaking to the paramedics that came in. And the end of his story was, I went home that day after Saturday, and I said to my wife, that was nice, and it was educational, and he said, I'm thinking in my head, when am I ever going to use that again? And 2 weeks later, he got a chance to use it. So that was a big moment for me last week. And on a personal note, my family, my daughter Mariah has requested a support dog at San Diego State University. And so we went up to a breeder in Manteca, and we got a puppy Siberian Husky German Shepherd, and we brought it home a couple of days ago. And she filled out her application. She's going to get a house to rent right on campus with her dog, with her support dog. Completely flabbergasted my wife and I. But we're supporting her. We have the puppy at home right now. And in 3 weeks, we have another puppy coming, a golden retriever. So we're gonna be a busy family because we lost our dog a couple of months ago, and so this is a good support for the Barbara family. But that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Fama.
Thank you. I want to address what we've talked about a little bit, and that is the gala. I agree. I surveyed the room with my eyes, and I just saw everybody having a great time. So many volunteers, so many wonderful fundraising activities, a great dinner, good camaraderie. And it reminded me that when I first came on this board 6, 7, 8 years ago, so I guess, the school district was isolated. We were the school district, and we were talking to ourselves, and we were talking to our parent community, to our student community, but we weren't really well integrated into the Millbrae community. And I thank not only the leadership that we have today in the district office, but also the organization of the Millbrae Education Foundation, which has joined us in recognizing the need to really reach out to our community and bring them in to show them the value of education here. And it's worked really well. And this year, I think, every year it's going to get better, but this year was really the best I've seen in all the time that I've been here. So I thank you for your hard work. I wish I could shake the hands of every volunteer that was there, because they were working hard and yet still having a good time. So thank you very much.
Okay, so on the same note about the gala, I just hope those ladies, there were 3 that we gave special commendations to. I hope they are enjoying had a spa weekend coming up, or they're doing something to...
They're still counting money.
They're still counting money. But they did an amazing job, as always. I agree with you, Trustee Ravello. They really kicked it up another notch, and it can only get better. What I loved was the new SEL bidding war that went on, and I think that was just talk about fund a need. I mean, we were funding a need right in that room there, and those parents that got up, and the paddles are going up, and the teachers around and community members with their little glow sticks, that was really, really cool, those glow sticks going all over the place, and I'm trying to look at the screen to see what are we bidding on. But anyway, it was just very exciting, and just can't thank them enough for all their hard work. I also wanted to comment on a little excursion. I went with Superintendent Fapersert last week to Encinal School in Menlo Park, and we observed a Spanish immersion program. And I really learned a lot. I know a little bit about immersion programs, but I didn't know that a Spanish immersion program is where instruction is in one language, starting at kindergarten, 90% in Spanish and only 10% in English. A dual immersion is more the 50-50. And that the difference in the percentages of English versus the other language takes over and decreases as you go up the grades. So it was really a fun day. Loved watching the kids. Loved the enthusiasm that the staff put forth and the administration. There was a parent group. We also went to the parent meeting before we visited the classrooms, and the parents were coming from all different areas in Menlo Park School District, and they had lots of good questions. So it's a good program that we need to really observe other programs in our area, see what's out there. But it was really an exciting day. I think it was fun to look at. Also, going back to SEL, I went to the SEL committee meeting. And that process is going great guns. And after Saturday night with the gala, I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot more in SEL. Just wanted to give a shout out to Rotary and the Peninsula Chinese Business Association, who have already donated to the fund. So now we just have to wait to see what comes our way. And I'm sure it's going to be all good. And these meetings are attended by, we started with 40 people, and we've dwindled a little bit. But then at the gala, the meeting was on Thursday. At the gala on Saturday, I was amazed at the people from the committee. They're with the gala, but I don't think they go to our school. Maybe they do go to our schools, some of the parents. Anyway, those meetings are the book Mindset. I have recommended that book to all that is interested in making changes and giving confidence to yourself and to students. So that's it. We're going to move right along to our superintendent.
Good evening, trustees. Just a few updates for tonight. First, I think trustees belabored this point, so I'm not going to go into it. I apologize, Trustee Ravello. You were missing at this one middle shot right here. But we do want to thank, in addition to Andrea Lee, Tiffany Tyson, Natalie Yang, there was, as the trustees alluded to, there were a whole team of folks who blew up the balloons, who was in charge of decorations, who had the tent cards, who strategically went to every chair to ensure that the numbers were correct. And the little did I know that there was a mass distribution of paddle assignments, and so it was a lot. It was a big event, and many of those folks stayed up endless nights, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning, and so we want to thank them, and we certainly want to give a shout out to a successful night. In terms of what happens next for the Millbrae School District and the Millbrae Education Foundation, a lot of folks stated that night, what does it mean to fund a need in the area of social emotional learning? A letter that will follow up from this event, our president, Maura LeBaron-Shea, is working on this letter with me now. Currently, we have fully funded our existing programs, and so the programs that our students are receiving, we have fully funded. And as one can imagine, annually we evaluate the programs. Is it still, does it need to be potentially revised to reflect new evidence-based educational practices? So know that annually, just because those programs exist, it doesn't mean that we don't review them. Now, what does it mean for SEL? We want to take a look at establishing a comprehensive social-emotional learning / student wellness programming, and that can include a comprehensive research-based curriculum and instruction district-wide. That can also include signature classroom and district practices. That can also include social-emotional learning support roles to launch universal SEL programming for all students. That could look like a additional counselor. It can look like a additional mental health programming specialist. It could look like an social emotional learning support aid role. When funding is finally calculated, we'll bring this back to the Social Emotional Learning Advisory Group. We'll also bring this back to the Board of Trustees to talk about our comprehensive plan before we make any decisions to recommend to MEF. Our hope for expanding this particular program is to design and support classroom instruction. We've heard that over from trustees, and we've heard that over from our classroom teachers. They need that additional support in the classroom. We want to ensure that this particular expansion includes classroom lessons, facilitating and support implementation of school-wide practices. We know that if we bring in a program in our schools and our school district, across the school district, without that additional support, without that additional communication to parents and partnership, and without the professional development, the program doesn't it doesn't thrive. And so we want to ensure that we comprehensively put that package together. These are just brainstorming notes. We certainly will come back to the advisory group and come back to both the school board and the Millbrae Education Foundation when making decisions about how to expand that program with the funds that are that we will soon see. Trustee Ferrario alluded to our site visit at Menlo Park School District. President Ferrario, Principal Spicker, Carolina Orlando, who teaches kinder at Lamina Park, was part of this visit. I too found the matrix or the grade level specific language very interesting. We did get to see a kinder class all the way to 5th grade. It was pretty powerful in terms of the language being used in the classroom. The takeaway from this particular visit is I had an opportunity to debrief with Principal Spicker and our teacher, Carolina Orlando, just to talk about what that program could look like at Lamita Park. No decisions have been made. It was just a reflection from what we saw. The population is different in terms of the school that we visited versus Lamita Park. Questions that came up from our principal and our teacher was, is this something that the board is looking at for next year, or is this something that we need some time to design? The takeaway from our conversation was this is pretty massive. The school district in Menlo Park has a principal on special assignment who is in charge of the world language program. So in addition to the language immersion program at the 2 elementary sites, they also offer a introduction to world language. And so she is a principal on special assignment. She's not assigned to a site-specific building. I do believe that she's a 0.8 or 0.6. Don't quote me. That's Tammy, the lady that we met, the individual met, the amazing lady that we met. But she does oversee this particular program. She has, and her study was a language. That's her background. And so my conversation with her led to, Vaughn, you need to have somebody oversee this. Someone that's not currently, her recommendation, someone that doesn't currently have other projects like the director of special education or the assistant superintendent of ed services or the superintendent. This is a dedicated role that Menlo Park wanted to baby and they wanted to nourish. And could it be done? It could be done, but know that this is a bigger monster than one can imagine in terms of rolling out a successful program. They are in the latter years. We actually had a chance to see kinder all the way to 5th grade. And President Ferrario, a takeaway from my 5th grade, during the 5th grade interviews, was when we had they're native Spanish speakers, but they stated, the question from the panel was, are you confused about certain English words? How did you know what a pentagon was? And one student responded, I didn't know what a pentagon was. I had to ask my friend. I only knew that word in Spanish. And so it was very interesting in terms of what we've learned. As I've stated, the takeaway is this is a massive program, and certainly we want to move slow to move fast to ensure that whatever program we choose and whatever program we think about, we look at it comprehensively. And I agree with President Ferrario, this is just one model. Certainly other school districts, San Mateo Foster, Burlingame School District, have their own immersion program as well, and I've been in contact with those superintendents. This is an Educational Services Department update. Just a quick, I pulled this from our newsletter, but our Ed Services team is going out to have conversations with our teachers. We are implementing a social emotional learning student survey, 3rd through 8th grade, and that should be completed in the month of March. One of our point 2 of our curriculum and assessment person is going out to the faculty meetings and going out to parent coffees. We attended Spring Valley Coffee last Friday to have that conversation with parents. Certainly at our middle school level, the History Social Studies publisher presentation is upcoming. We just found out that our next generation science coach will be sent to a 3-day training beginning tomorrow. That's new on the calendar. And LPAC assessment district-wide is in the works. It's finishing up later this month. And certainly the Ed Services team is finishing up their interim assessment practices, and principals to date are having those conversations about the data that we see. And then lastly, the Ed Services and the Business Services team is joining because we have to update our textbook and Chromebook policies. It's been requested by our site administration to take a look at one example, what do we do when Chromebooks are damaged by students? And so those are some items that are happening at the Ed Services Department. Lastly, just a reminder, we have another gala. It is titled a gala this Saturday, PCBA's fundraiser gala. The flyer has a black tie detail to it. However, Mr. Zader and I confirm that it's semi-formal, but it's your call in terms of your outfits. But what's published is black tie, but it was confirmed that we can look semi-formal. Meadows Craft Feed is next Saturday at the Kaylin Shea Center, and then the following Saturday is the Spring Valley Heritage Dinner, and both events are at the Kaylin Shea Center. Thank you, and that's my update for tonight.
I just had a question. I've forgotten, Vaughn, when are we adopting history social studies? I know the publisher's presentation is usually in the spring. Do we adopt this year? Next year. So 1920. Okay, and what about science? Same thing, 1920. So this is the NGSS 3-day, is that toolkit or toolkit? Toolkit. Okay, it's toolkit. So that is, those are just programs that are going to be out there to look at?
So what I learned was that Julie is attending a conference in Alameda, short notice, tomorrow through Friday, and the training is going to entail the piloting process with use of the toolkit. She'll unpack the toolkit so that when she brings it back to our school district, she's able to give it to our teachers in our language.
So moved.
Thank you. Trustee Gravella, and second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Your mic.
Approval of the agreement MESD 181923 accountable healthcare staffing.
Trustees, staff brings forward for approval the 1819 CSEA seniority listing. This is a recommended action for approval.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. District business, seniority listing, CSEA. Seniority listing, Richard Champion.
Well, jumped a little bit ahead of myself there, sorry.
Oh, gosh, yeah, we did just jump ahead. Well, that was part of the consent agenda. Sorry.
Yes.
I got you on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I thought
now,
you did say my name, didn't you say?
I did. No. Okay. Accountable healthcare, I said. Okay. So let's go on to the certificated seniority list. Vaughn.
Trustees, the certificated seniority list has been reviewed by staff and is presented tonight to the board for approval as presented.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, ballot for CSBA delegate assembly. Vaughn.
Trustees, before you, or within your packets, we had 3 candidates who were listed as delegates. On the list, the asterisk denotes incumbents, and tonight the board, we do need to take action. We can vote for 0, we can vote for 1, and we can vote for up to 3. So it is up for discussion and for a vote tonight.
Okay, discussion.
I just want to recommend that we vote for all 3 of them. I know them all, and they're all good people, and so I just want to recommend to the board to go ahead and approve all of them, if that's okay.
Thank you for your input. Any other discussion?
I read them also. Their resumes, they all have,
Very impressive.
right, and they all bring a slightly different perspective, and they all had something valuable that they wanted to impart and participate in. So I think they're all good candidates as well.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve all three candidates.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, 12.1, Board Governance Calendar. Got a new one.
Trustees, presented tonight is the proposal for the 2019-2020 calendar. We wanted to provide that to the board prior to Claudia going out to take a look at the availability at the city level. Tonight, we wanted to just see if there were any conflicts or any concerns about some selected dates. The yellow highlight is slated for the live board meeting that takes place here at City Hall Chambers, and the internal date is in blue is at the district office.
Any discussion on that? Trustee Musa? I see you looking.
I am looking. I'm a little bit concerned because you look at this calendar, we always approve it, and then next year we're like, oh, why did we approve that one? Because it didn't work with the other calendar. So it's hard. I don't know. We had this year we had a couple of days that were conflicts with other stuff, so I'm not sure.
Board meeting?
Board meetings, yeah. How does this go with the city and planning? I feel like this year a lot of our meetings were on the same night as other meetings going on in the city. So, is it something to consider? Look at
The dates that we indicate here are the dates that just first been historically chosen. And if they are altered, it's because we either have a conflict in the first week, example, the April spring break, and then we often only select one date in July and August. But these particular dates are synchronized, and Claudia works with the city to ensure that it doesn't fall on the other items that are on here, like the Peninsula Healthcare District and the city council meetings and the other meetings that are slated. So she does work with the city hall to ensure that there's no conflict. Now, if we're referring to other dates, such as school dates, we can work with our principals to ensure that no major events are scheduled during this time.
No televised meeting in April
That's correct.
2020?
That's correct.
No? Is there a reason why?
It fell on our spring break. Our spring break fell on the second week of April that year, or for next year. That's what's being proposed.
That seems to be the first time we've not had a televised meeting in April. Isn't that a pretty big month for us, or not?
We typically
That could be wrong.
It depends on where it falls. Usually our spring break is on the first week of April. Next year, it's on the second week where we would have slated a board meeting. And remember, we follow the high school district calendar. And so we do our best. And so it's slated. Certainly, if the board would like to select a date for the second week of April, the impact is that a lot of our staff is not at work.
That's fine. I'm just asking.
I think Trustee Musa was alluding to the fact that in last December, when we had our reorganization meeting, she was unable to be here, which was kind of sad because she is our vice president, because of a scheduling conflict with the middle school in terms of a concert. So maybe you can put a little notation on your calendar, Vaughn, to make sure that doesn't happen again, because, sometimes those events just are internal with the elementary schools or the middle schools.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's a drop dead date when we have to
Yes.
rotate, and that's governed by the county, not by. So we just have to make sure that we meet that deadline, whatever it is. I forget.
Okay.
And we don't have to worry for the next year because there are no terms that are up. Because you officially take the oath of office when you sign the paperwork. I know that there's been new legislation that has us has school boards and city jurisdictions to do it after the 15th of December. However, with the terms being a consistent, there's no new board members that will be taking office. So for the purpose of reorg, it's for formality.
Thank you for that. That's a good note.
So is this finalized, or do we have to wait?
This is presented to you tonight. If there's any items on here that may be a conflict, one of the things I can mention is if we do approve this tonight, Claudia will work with the City Hall to ensure that the televised folks are available. Should there be any shift or changes, it does indicate here that the the board can do an addendum to this approval. So
it makes sense for us to approve tonight rather than waiting till the next televised meeting, correct?
Correct.
Is everyone in agreement that we can? Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the calendar?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Possible future agenda items. Update on facility usage. Retiree celebration, alcohol policy, physical education curriculum. Do we have any discussion on those, or any updates on the retiree celebration?
Yeah.
No, it's just slated for upcoming.
Okay.
An upcoming board meeting.
All right.
And yes, we have a lot.
So where are we on the alcohol policy? Are we going to examine what is going on currently with other school districts right now? Because it's been about 2 years since we've visited this subject. And is it possible that maybe we could just get an update on who's doing what on the peninsula? Is it possible?
I think we were looking at our previous policy and looking at how we would modify that. So I think there was a question. I think that was the same thing we talked about on the facility usage, that you were going to send us some board policy related to those items.
Yeah.
Can you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. So then we'll have that before our next meeting, so then maybe we can have more discussion then. Does that sound about right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So, any other items?
I have one, I guess maybe a clarification. When we talk about the immersion program, looking at it. So one thing I would like to hear is our observations of what's going on at Mills, because obviously, that's the primary school that our kids are fed into. And I would certainly think it would be a good idea to have a meeting of the minds as far as this is what we're doing at Mills, and whatever it is we decide to do from an immersion standpoint, that we gear ourselves so that it meshes with what is going on or what Mills has got planned. I think it also would give us an opportunity if we get into collaboration discussion with Mills to talk about certain aspects of their program. And I can only speak to the Spanish program because that's the one that my kids participate. That's the one their friends participate in, so that's the one I hear about all the time. But the universal point that the kids make is that And there's some very, very good things about what happens at Mills. I've seen some of the projects they do and what they learn about the culture, the politics. Certainly, from an academic side, I admire an awful lot of what that program does. But the single biggest weakness historically for any language program, particularly Spanish, that being the primary second language that we're teaching, is that the focus is almost exclusively on the academic piece. My daughter's a senior and has spent a number of years, at the Taylor program with both Taylor and Mills, and she shares the concern that she has with her classmates in that they can write an A paper, they can read a Spanish newspaper, but they can't have good day-to-day conversations. We teach the kids a high form of Spanish, which in my day in high school they taught us Castilian. Well, that's fine if you're in Barcelona, okay? That doesn't help you communicate with people, the Hispanics, in the Western Hemisphere, particularly since the Western Hemisphere is very heavy on colloquialisms, local slangs. So if you're talking about language as a vehicle to understand people and really communicate with them, communication being the barrier that breaks down stereotypes, then let's teach the kids how to speak to natives of the Western Hemisphere. Let's not teach them how to write a paper for Barcelona, Spain. Okay, let's teach them how to talk to the kids that they meet on the corner. Okay, so that maybe they'll get a better appreciation, understanding for them. And, if you can communicate with someone in their language, on their terms, in their colloquialisms, guess what? That breaks down a barrier. That person now gains a whole different level of respect for you, as a person, not just because you attempted to speak to them in Spanish, but you spoke to them in a way that was familiar to them, that denotes kinship, that denotes friendship. And I think that's what, these learning foreign languages for us should be about. Learning not just about the culture, but learning how to talk to someone else in a way that they are familiar with and will identify with and will form a true level of understanding and friendship. That's
There at the parent meeting at Encinal in Menlo Park, there are many statistics out there, Dawn, which I think you would be interested in knowing, that this immersion program in these two schools goes to 5th grade. So when the students go to 6th, 7th, and 8th, or 7th and 8th, I forget what the combination is, but they are introduced to a world language class, and they do very well at the middle school to the point where they skip the entrance level of Spanish and that they score very well on AP exams going out of high school. Now, that doesn't address what you're speaking to, because I can remember taking conversational Spanish, or I took Italian for travelers. Right. So I think you're looking at something more like that.
Well, I certainly don't want to ignore the academics, because there's high value in that. So don't get me wrong, but we need to have more of. There needs to be better balance. Mm-hmm. I mean, I understand what we're trying to achieve academically, okay? But it saddens me, when I hear comments from bright kids that I know take their studies seriously and are thinking along the lines of, where we want them to think. They're trying to think globally. They're trying to, understand other people, okay? But this is an impediment to them. Okay, the inability to have common conversation, easily on common things, it's a hindrance. Okay, and they should not be saying this when they get out of high school, and these are AP kids.
Well, I can certainly tell you that this immersion program at the elementary level is definitely conversational. They are communicating with each other, with their teachers, and so they are speaking to all those idioms that we speak about when students come to us and they don't understand when you say, I have a frog in my throat. So they're talking about that type of thing. Now, what happens later on, I don't know, but that's something we can look into. Thank you. We're going to add that to the list. Anything else?
Quick question. Physical education curriculum update, is that pertaining to Taylor Middle School? And my question is, should we be discussing this? I mean, is there any issue that we should have this on the agenda? Is that did I speak a different language?
No, I think it is appropriate. It's just part, I
You
feel.
look like, I mean, I see that on there because of, let me back up a second. Because of the history that we know of, is there any issues with this last sentence over here? No? Okay. That's all.
Trustee Musa can speak to that. We were looking at more the curriculum. We were going to have the PE staff come and give us an update on their curriculum. Yeah. So they're working, they're working on that. Yeah.
Well, curriculum and issues in the past sort of combined, they all go together there? No. Okay. All right.
Anything from you, Trustee Fema?
I move we adjourn.
Okay. I see you're all packed up there. Okay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Is it? What time? I mean,